Have you ever wondered about what makes you happy? Well, we thought about it and we decided to do a data visualization project on the said topic. I'm Prerona, I'm a student of statistics, second year at Lady Brabourne College, Calcutta University, and I'll be joined by my friend who also worked with me on the project, and she'll be introducing herself.
Hello everyone. I am Jenithrika. I'm a second year stats honor student at Lady Shriram College for Women, Delhi University. So our objective here is to shed light on this topic, what makes you happy, using data visualization techniques, and find out which factors have a good effect on happiness of a person. So here are the few factors which we have considered for the project. We'll be seeing a detailed factors and their effects in the upcoming slides. So the few factors here are age, work time, hobbies time, friends time, health, and family time. So for the data visualization, we have used our programming language. So I'll be explaining the collection and pre-processing stage of the project. So the very first stage was collection of the data. For the same, we have created a questionnaire using Google Forms, which consisted of around 14 questions based on age, gender, current residence, their current status, whether they are a student or a full-time employed or self-employed person, how they spend time on different activities in a day, it is a normal day, and the most important question, how much they are happy at the end of the day. For this question, we had asked them to rate their happiness on a scale of 0 to 5. In that 0 representing the person is completely unhappy, and 5 representing the person is the most happy at the end of the day. So we had received around 250 plus responses after the circulation of the form. The responses were from the age group of 15 to 60 years of old. So after receiving a tremendous response, the next step, what we had done is data cleaning and pre-processing of the data. So in the data cleaning, the very first step, what we have done is we found out a lot of inconsistent data. For suppose, I'll be showing that how the data set looked. So these are the few factors we have considered. As you can see, age, gender, annual income, current residence, student, and all these factors. So how we have found inconsistent data is we had asked them to say, suppose we had asked them to give them the whole number, say in age, but then they had typed in words. So we had changed such type of data, and so that we can maintain uniformity in the data set. After that, we had given time intervals for the time variables, say study time, hobbies time, family time, partner time, and all those time variables, we had given time intervals previously. But for visualization purpose, what we had done is we had taken the average of these time intervals and converted them into percentages for a visualization purpose. Also, in order to diversify our results, we had created two types of data set, that is constrained data and diverse data. So the difference here in the data set is that in the constrained data, we had compressed the family time, partner time, and friends time into one variable, that is people time. So how we have taken the data for people time is that we had taken the maximum of family time, partner time, and friends time and converted them into a new variable called people time. And in the diverse data, we had maintained the same set of factors, as you can see here. And also, for personal needs, we had found a lot of inconsistent data. The reason is that we had included sleep time in the personal needs, but a lot of people ignoring that, they have given wrong data here. So in order to correct them, what we have done is we had taken the sum of all the other variables, that is the time variables, and subtracted it from 100 to get the personal needs. And after sorting it, that is from ascending order, we had deleted those data which was less than 25% under the personal needs. So this is how we corrected the time variables. And also we have made a correction in the annual income. So in annual income, we had also given intervals previously. That is, the intervals were 0 to 2 lakhs, 2 to 6 lakhs, 6 to 12 lakhs, and more than 12 lakhs. So again, for visualization purpose, we had taken the average of these intervals, and only for one interval, that is more than 12 lakhs, we had taken the that interval as 12 only. So these were the changes we have made in the dataset, and this is the final. This is how the final dataset after the pre-processing looked like. So moving on, the next step is the data visualization, which will be explained by Prerona.
So the first variable that we plotted against happiness was age. And as we can see, this is a scatter plot showing age versus happiness. And since there's a positive trend line between the variables, we can say that there's a positive linear relationship. Although we cannot say for sure unless we have tested this statistically, and which we will be doing in the near future. And the next variable is gender. So for gender, we use box plots, and there were like we had given 3 categories, but since there were very few observations in the other category, we have chosen to ignore it because it's not possible to make any proper inferences on it. And so if you're just looking at the mean of the male and female categories in both the data sets, we can see that the mean happiness for males is slightly higher than that of females. And hence, so by just looking at the means, we can say that males are possibly happier than females, but then again, we cannot say for sure until and unless we are checking them statistically, that is by performing certain statistical tests, and only then we can say for sure that males are happier than females. So the next variable that we have plotted is annual income and happiness. And as we can see that for that there's barely any positive relationship between them, positive linear relationship between them. So again, we have to perform statistical tests in order to prove our point. But for now, we can say that annual income and happiness do not have any correlation as such. Here we can see we have used box plots for current residents. So the categories, as we can see, are rural people residing in rural areas, and suburbs and urban areas. Where we can see the mean happiness for rural people is the highest, and then suburbs, and then comes urban areas. So we have inferred here that that the that rural people, the people residing in rural areas, are possibly happier than those residing in the suburbs or urban areas. But again, we cannot say for sure unless and until we perform statistical tests to prove our point. So this is student status versus happiness. This means student status basically means if a person is a student or not. So this was kind of like we had changed the data set in a way that it was just a yes no question. So people who have basically students, we can see that their mean happiness is lesser than that of non-students. And so we can say here that non-students are possibly happier than students, but again, we'll be checking it statistically by doing some tests. We'll get back to it later. This is employment status versus happiness. So there were 5 categories here, out of which we have chosen to ignore the homemaker category, since there was just probably, I think, one observation in that. So it wasn't possible to draw any constructive inference based on that. So that's why we work with the other 4. Here again, we can see that self-employed people have the highest mean happiness, which is probably not surprising because I think people enjoy being their own boss uh, in general. And again, we'll be performing statistical tests in order to be sure.
So this is a scatter plot between the variable time spent on work or study and the overall happiness of a person. So as we can see in the scatter plot, there's barely any relationship between study or work time. That is, we cannot observe any trend here. So we infer here that that study or work time of a person doesn't affect the happiness of a person much. But again, we have to perform the statistical test as Prerona has mentioned in the previous slides to prove this significance of the effect. So this is again a scatter plot between the variable time spent on hobbies and overall happiness. So over here, we can see that there is a positive trend, that is an upward trend, which implies that there is a positive relationship between the time spent on hobbies and overall happiness of a person. So this implies that the more the person spends time on his hobbies, the more happier he is. But again, we cannot state it or conclude it because we haven't done the statistical tests to prove this relationship. And we'll be doing it in near future to prove this relationship between time spent on hobbies and overall happiness of a person. This is a scatter plot between the variable time spent with partner and overall happiness. And this variable partner time is exclusive to diverse data set. So in this scatter plot, we see that there's an upward trend. That is, there's a positive relationship between partner time and overall happiness. But again, a point to be noted here is that the slope of the trend line is quite smaller than that of the other trend lines. So if we have to conclude here, that is what we infer here is that the more a person spends time with his or her partner, the more happier he or she is. But again, as we have said in the previous slides, we have to perform the statistical test to prove this relationship. This is a scatter plot between the variable time spent with family and the overall happiness of a person. Again, from this scatter plot, we see that there is an upward trend. That is, there is a positive relationship between the time spent with family and overall happiness of a person. And again, it is not surprising that the more time we spend with our family, the more happier we are. But we have to prove it statistically using testing of hypothesis to prove this relationship. Okay, so the next variable is time spent with friends. And again, this variable is exclusive to diverse data set. So from the scatter plot, we see that there is a downward trend. So we can infer that the less the time we spend with our friends, happier we are. So this comes out to be a surprise for us. So we have to test it statistically to prove the significance of the effect, that is the variable's effect on happiness. Okay, so the next variable is people time, which is exclusive to constrained data set. So from this scatter plot, we see no trend. That is, the points are scattered all over the graph. So therefore, we infer that people time doesn't have much significance on overall happiness. That is, when we compress the three variables, is friends time, family time, and partner time, we do not get any conclusive results from the variable people time. Hence, we had got better results from the diverse data set factors. So this people time doesn't give us much better results.
So this is, we have plotted time spent on personal needs versus happiness. And here we can see that there is a slight negative there's a slight negative linear relationship between the variables, although it's almost negligible. So, yeah, but again, we'll have to be performing statistical tests in order to prove our point. This is health issues versus happiness. So, the effect of health on happiness. So, how we've collected the data on this particular variable is that we asked people to rate on a scale of 0 to 5 how much their prevailing health issues, or if they were to have health issues, how it affects their happiness on a scale of 0 to 5. Yes. So, people who have chosen 0, it implies that their health issues do not have any effect on their happiness, and people who have chosen 5, or they it implies that their health issues affect their happiness to a great extent. So here we can see that the more people, the people with higher ratings of the effect of health on happiness, they are less happy, which means that for people whose health issues affect their happiness to a great extent, they're obviously less happier than than people for whom health issues don't matter as such. So, and again, we'll be performing statistical tests in order to confirm. Now we have, in the following slides, after this, we have summarized all of our inferences with visuals. So here we have summarized the variables which have a positive linear relationship with happiness. As you can see here, age is one, time spent on hobbies is one, and then time spent with family and time spent with partner. So yes. Here we have effect of health issues on happiness, again, which is not surprising because people for whom health issues affect their happiness a lot, they are likely to be less happier. But what was surprising, I think, was that we found that people who are spending more time with friends are less happy. And although we don't know for sure yet, we will be confirming our points using statistical tests. So these are the variables which have no effect on happiness as such. One of them being study and work time. Then there's people time. People time is the condensed measure we used in the constrained data set, which was the maximum of time spent with friends, family, and partner. And then there was time spent on personal needs. So time, yes, which also included sleeping and personal hygiene and everything. And then there's annual income, which also does not have any uh this does not have any relationship, a linear relationship with happiness.
So now we'll be talking about the relationship of qualitative variables with happiness. So the first variable which we are talking about here is current residence. So as we have seen in the previous slides, that the mean happiness of rural residents are greater than that of the suburb people and urban residents. So is rural living the secret to happiness? Well, this question can be answered using the statistical test. But for now, from the data visualization we have done and the observations we have got, we infer that the rural residents are much happier than the urban residents. The second qualitative variable here is gender. So we have seen that the mean happiness of the category male is greater than that of the female. So are males the happier gender? From the observations and from the data visualization we have done, we infer that the male are happier. But again, we have to perform statistical tests to prove this relationship between the gender and happiness of a person. Our third qualitative variable here is employment status. So we have seen that the mean happiness of self-employed are higher than that of full-time employed and unemployed. So does being your own boss make you happier? And it is evident from the visualization and the observations we have got that self-employed people are happier than that of full-time employed and unemployed. Well, again, we have to perform statistical tests to prove this point. It is to prove the relationship between employment status and happiness of a person. The fourth variable here is student status. That is, the mean happiness of the non-students was higher than that of the students. So, well, it is not a surprising thing that students feel the pressure. But again, we knew that the corporate life or being a non-student, well, over here,
Stressful as
non-students
well.
includes a lot of categories. It includes the people who are working, people who are not a student, like people who are unemployed. So it includes all the categories. But again, our observations show that students are less happier than the non-students. So, do non-students experience greater joy than students? Well, to answer this question, we'll be performing statistical tests to prove the relationship between student status and overall happiness of a person. So, happiness is a very vast concept, and it is not limited to the factors we have worked with. So it is very difficult to define happiness and understand it in a universal sense. So we would like to thank our mentor, Mr. Srijit Mukherjee sir, for helping us throughout this project and for giving us this opportunity to work on this unique topic, that is what makes you happy. And yes, Prerona, she would like to say a few words.
Yes, and so, but since we just worked with these factors and there could be more, and this is what we came up with. So I guess that is it for today. And yeah,
So we'll be performing the statistical test part, that is the data analysis part,
yes.
and
And
we'll be coming up with more, sure conclusions. And yes, thank you.
thank you.